Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dychronic here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Xur, his location for September 11th, 2020. Wow, okay, wow, it's September 11th. I didn't even realize, but this is actually a day that's held in infamy. So, of course, in this video, we're going to be showing you where the Xur is, his random rolls, my recommendations, and, of course, we're going to be airing more towards the long version of my Xur, so the regular way I usually do it. I asked you guys last time if you wanted more of a blitz version, just saying here are the weapons, what they do, or if you wanted a more of an explanation version of why you'd use certain things in certain modes, and it seems pretty good that most people like the longer version. You can find the Xur in his regular location on the EDZ, so just head over to the Winding Cove, wake your way over top of this mountain over here, that's English right here, and I'll be standing here waiting for you with my wacky inflatable tube, man, just while I'm dabbing at the same time. In case this is all you cared about, this is a high overview of everything the Xur has in case you wanted a really short version. Starting up with the gun today, let's talk about the Prospector. First and foremost, my favorite part about it, it's got a bunch of fun little ornaments, including this one, which I believe is a Portal reference. It could just be a caution reference, I'm not too sure. So the Prospector, it's one of those special grenade launchers that are supposed to be high DPS because of its rounds per minute at 165. Its magazine is at A. It's supposed to be one of those high DPS weapons. On top of the fact, it has a full auto trigger system, and as you fire grenades, they don't explode immediately, and when you release the fire button, they all explode at the same time, putting fire on the ground, and they also stick to targets. It's a fun thing to do DPS with, and it actually does pretty decent DPS, but the total ammo damage is just so poor that I really don't have any time that I would ever want to use it. And honestly, in Crucible, it doesn't do well either. So this is a particular exotic they really need to rework because there's no particular situation that I want to use it over the other options that I have, which are, again, better DPS, even same safety, and much more total ammo damage. Even that of the Interference, a random legendary with full court, spike grenades, auto-loading, it just feels so much better than this. Moving on to the Hunter exotic today, we have the OPHIDIA SPATHE. If you've never heard of it, it grants 2 knives per charge. That's actually not what it does. What it does is it gives you an extra melee charge for your solar subclass, which use knives. I thought initially that this would be that every time you throw a knife, it like throws 2 knives, which I think would be more interesting, on top of the fact that there are other exotics in this game, like Claws of Amkar for the Warlock, that just give literally an additional melee charge, which is more universal, meaning you're not locked to a single subclass with an exotic that does the same thing as another exotic that I don't value in the first place. So TLDR, I don't understand why this exotic exists. I think they need to vastly change it, even with Solar Plexus, which is an artifact mod this season that drastically increases the solar damage with solar melees. I just don't find myself using it. I'd rather just use like a Celestial Nighthawk, even a Wormhusk to survive in PvE. I just don't find a situation that this really changes much. Because again, in the end, this is just an extra melee charge. You can use things like Gambler's Dodge if you want to get your melee charge back. Or if you get headshots with Sharpshooter, you get your melee charge back. At the very least, this should be reworked so that it's universal across all of the subclasses, or having a slight advantage being forced to solar. As far as the role goes, primary mobility works well, again, for that Gambler's Dodge, and just in general for Hunters. Secondary in recovery, really good for PvP, although I wouldn't really use this in PvP, so maybe a kind of average role for a very below average exotic that has an ornament, which I wonder what this, ooh, that looks nice actually. I wonder what it looked like with Carmenica. Moving on to the Titan exotic, we have the Doomfang Pauldrons. Now, if I could stop right here and just say, buy this. If you don't have one, buy this one. The particular role is not that interesting, but if you don't have it, this is my literally #1 favorite Titan exotic in the entire game. Now, specifically, it is more PvE focused, and I think it's really great for PvE, but it also has efficacy in PvP. Watch my Titan top 10 that I made a few weeks ago to check out more information about that. If you've never heard of it, its main perk, Horns of Doom, void melee kills give you super energy, for example, your shield bash or whatever you're using. While Sentinel Shield is active, melee kills recharge your shield throw, and then your shield throw extends your super on hits. So here's the flowchart. You throw your shield throw, it hits a bunch of targets. If you're using Code of the Aggressor, each one of those kills will give you a little bit of shield back. You also get a second shield charge with it. And of course, if you run out of shields, then you go melee kill one enemy with your melee attack, which is pretty strong for roaming supers, and then you get more shield throws, and then you just continually throw more shields. And if you have Grenadier modifier on for whatever activity you're doing, you know, strikes, menagerie, whatever, you can literally have an infinite super if there's a target in front of you. I'm not kidding. If literally all you're doing is throwing shields, your super will literally never end. And again, this super is really good. You've got great melee abilities, you've got ranged options, you've got defensive options, and it lasts a pretty decent amount of time with a lot of good resistance. This particular exotic is excellent. If you've ever played a Master Nightfall or even a Grandmaster Nightfall, I've done this in, and you just thought to yourself, hey, I'm just gonna run into this group of enemies and just kind of mess them up and throw shields and make my super last forever, you're probably using this particular exotic. As far as a role goes, primary and recovery with a stat of 22 is incredibly high. Secondary in strength definitely goes well with the first part of this, so you can get your super a little faster than usual. However, I'd like to see a lot more in intellect, as that is what it's based around. However, intellect is not the most important stat to have on one piece of armor. As long as you have it on some other pieces in general abundance, around 5 to 7, you're usually fine. So I'd say this kind of roll is probably average to above average for an exotic that I would highly recommend you get right away. God, I got some hiccups, man. And finally, for the Warlock exotic, we have the Stag. Wow, you really got like so many little antennas here. You got 3 here, you've got like 4 more for the horns. The Stag, if you've never heard of it, the main perk, Dearly Departed, grant Rift Energy when you're critically wounded, which that Rift Energy is actually really fast when you're critically wounded, and on your death, you create a healing rift on your corpse. The idea here being that your teammates can revive you more easily because they're being healed while they do it. However, in high-level gameplay, you will actually have a timer on your death, so that rift will actually just not be very helpful. On top of the fact, there are other exotics like Vespers of Radius, which are more dependable and don't require you to be critically wounded to get your rift energy. On top of that, I just like Lunafaction for rift stuff that just feels better with rifts, and of course there's Phoenix Protocol for your wells. There's a lot of other better options than the Stag. However, the Stag has a pretty sick, dope ornament, and probably, again, I really like the way this thing looks. As far as the role goes, primary in mobility, then resilience, then discipline is kind of weird. It doesn't really go with this particular exotic. You'd like to see a lot more in recovery, which is exactly how you get rifts with a warlock. So a pretty bad roll, a good total stats, but a bad roll for a bad exotic, and I personally would not recommend it. Outside of that, make sure you're picking up your 5 of Swords for the high score Nightfalls on the other regular Nightfalls. Make sure you're picking up your Invitation 9 for a powerful gear, and of course lore that's going to go in your triumphs, and then finally an exotic engram. Any exotic engram, including this, will guarantee you an exotic that you have never gotten before, and it will guarantee it with a high stat roll. And that goes for any exotic you find in the wild. You can see this is a stat roll of 63. You can see the intellect is off the chart because that's just how Apotheosis Veil works. It just has a high intellect stat that's just written in the code. However, I don't like this exotic. This roll is actually incredible, by the way. Having mobility, recovery, and intellect on a warlock is incredible, but I don't have any time that I would ever want to use this exotic. So yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you'd let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions, concerns. If you like Douglas firs, let me know. I know this is not a Douglas fir, but if you like Douglas firs or any kind of conifer plants or deciduous plants, I learned that word the other day, let me know in the comments down below. But that's it. Hope you guys have enjoyed. My name is Dychronic, and I will see you guys on the next one. I missed. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh. Well, that's gonna kill a squirrel. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say it's gonna keep going to that trees and really mess up a squirrel's day for sure, but I guess not.